Time for another mower rescue video. Today we have a Craftsman. This is a big 6.5 horsepower self-propelled Eager One, not Eagle, Eager One. This is one of those convertible mowers. You can see Easy 3, mulch, bag, or discharge. So in other words, you can close the trap door in the back and it's a mulching mower, or you can open the trap door and you can put on the bag and it's a bagging mower, or you can open the back door and put on the optional plastic chute and it becomes a side discharge mower. Unlike a lot of my mowers that I rescue, I happen to know the history of this one. This actually belonged to my father-in-law, and he bought this brand new from Sears and used it for quite a few years. I do remember at one point he had a problem with it. I think he had hit something in the yard, and that caused the woodruff key on the flywheel to shear, which then caused the flywheel to rotate on the crankshaft, which caused a very bad ignition timing issue. And it was an interesting symptom because when you would go to pull it to start it, it would try and rip the cord right out of your hand and hurt your hand. And what was happening was it was firing and trying to make the piston and the thing rotate in the wrong direction as you were pulling it. And that was because of an ignition timing issue. And again, that was because the flywheel position on the crankshaft was incorrect. And that happened when the key sheared. Usually the way that the key shears, what causes that is usually if you hit something with the mower blade and the mower stops very suddenly. What happens is you've got all of that inertia, all of that energy stored in the flywheel, and when it suddenly stops, the flywheel wants to continue going. It wants to release that energy, and sometimes it's enough to shear that key. But that's not what's wrong with it now. This mower was put away working perfectly fine many, many years ago. My father-in-law got too old to be able to do the lawn himself. Long story short, this mower has been sitting for probably at least 15 years now, maybe longer. I actually lost count. So when I wheeled this out from underneath the porch where it was stored, which isn't bone dry obviously, I was shocked at how bad the condition is. The mower deck looked great when it was put away, and now it's all, the paint's all bubbling and it's all rusting. This is a steel mower deck. It's not like the Toros. A lot of the Toros have nice cast aluminum deck. It's a steel deck. The paint looks horrible, but I really don't care about that. I just want to see whether or not we can get it running again. Be a handy mower to have, because right now one of my Toros is over at that house for my son to do the yard. So rather than having to tote that thing back and forth, we've been leaving the Toro over there, and I want to bring it back home. So I figure if I get this running, I could bring this there, store this there, use that for the lawn. It's always been doing its entire life. So the tank is currently bone dry, which is good. I don't have any stale gas I have to contend with throwing out. This is the air filter cover. Oh boy, looks like this was behind on having its service done. This actually feels wet. I think maybe this was getting rained on underneath that porch. So we've got a cold start primer. How does the throttle on that thing work? Oh, I see. It's just really hard to turn. Oh, oh man, yeah, that's not too good. All right, let's put that up on high. Let's squirt a little gas down its gullet and see if we have spark. I see the recoil could use some work too. Okay, great. That skips us right ahead to fuel issues. We know we have spark, we know we have compression. Go right for the carburetor. Alright, it's looking to me like, let's take these two nuts off here and to be able to take this plastic shroud off and get a look at this carburetor. I can already tell by looking at the bowl that this is a model carburetor I have not worked on before. Alright, I see 2/4 inch screws right here. I'll drop those out. Maybe that'll take this bracket off. So if the cable was already released from here, yeah, if the cable was already released from here, I could take this off now. The cable's what's keeping that from happening. So I'm just gonna cheat a little bit here and push this cable over. Easier way to do this is to use the lever for leverage. Pull this over, stick something in there so it can't go back. Let that go, take the slack out, and Bob's your uncle. All right. Dirt. So, here's a drain on the carburetor bowl right here. Seems pretty pointless at this point. Wow, this looks like it uses a wire clip or bail almost type of arrangement to hold the bowl on. Oh, I see what we got here. These two studs are acting as bolts to retain the carburetor by having these flanges right here. And look what we need to unscrew these. It's like a reverse torque screw. I don't even know what those are called, believe it or not. Luck would have it, I just bought a set of those sockets at the flea market. Oh, this is a torque. So they do call these torques, even though they're the female torques. I got a feeling this might be metric on here because it's not the greatest fit, but luckily those aren't seized in there. And there's a metal shield staying stuck to the carburetor, but it goes up and mounts underneath here somewhere, so I don't want to bend that all up if I can avoid it. There we go, that's what I wanted. I wanted that to separate like that. Alright, now if I take the fuel line off, I should be able to rotate the carburetor to get this linkage, throttle linkage disconnected. Again, I don't have to worry about fuel because the tank is bone dry. Voila. Boy, look at the dirt on that. So that is an interesting carburetor. Look at the fuel inlet. The fuel inlet is into the bowl and at the bottom of the bowl to boot. The bowl is plastic. I'll tell you what, for once I'm happy to see something made out of plastic instead of metal. Pretty sure that's plastic. What a great design. Seriously, I'm not being sarcastic. And I don't even need tools to take the bowl off. It's just a clip. It snaps on. Oh, are you kidding me? And it's spring loaded? That is too cool for school. Oh yeah. What I'm smelling is the fresh gas I just put in there. It went right into the bowl. Alright. I'm going to put this back on temporarily because I'm going to wash all the dirt and grime off the outside of this carburetor before I open it up. Alright, now that I got most of the heavy dirt cleaned off of the outside of it, let's pop this bowl open. So, plastic float inside the plastic bowl. Another unique design feature of this carburetor. Take a look at this. The float, hinge point, and needle is fully contained inside the bowl, which makes sense because of the odd design of how they get the fuel coming in at the bottom. So as the float rises, it actually pushes this needle down. Instead of pulling a needle out from up above, it's pushing the needle down into the seat down below. Huh. All right. The tube for the main jet is plastic. There appears to be some sort of a O-ring or something on the bottom of this that is completely toast. That's not good. That jet is wide open to this venturi, so that should be easy enough to check and see if that's clogged. I'll just run a welding nozzle tip cleaner through there. So I just cleaned out the carburetor, and the jets actually seem pretty, the passages seem pretty clean on the carburetor, and that what I thought was a deteriorated O-ring was actually just a big bunch of dirt and crud around a tiny O-ring that was still in okay condition. So I've got the body of the carburetor clean enough, but I noticed this seemed to be sticking, and so I just popped it out. The little metal rod that this pivots on just snaps into these clips right here. Two things I notice: down inside the bore there, where the float needle is supposed to ride up and down, I could see some buildup in there. That's probably what's causing it to hang. That, and also this pivot pin is metal, and on this side I can clearly see that there's a little bit of rust. So it's just the slightest bit of rust on that pin on the end there, so I'm going to clean that. Now you can see the little O-ring at the end there that was encrusted with crud. Looks like I missed a little bit too. I'll clean that up a little bit more. But this was pretty rusted. This little pin being rusted would allow that float to stick. By the way, the way that I clean this is I chucked about 1/3 of it in the end of my drill and spun it with the drill and used some steel wool to clean it up. And it polished up nicely. I also cleaned that bore down there. It wasn't as dirty as I thought. So now I snap this back in. Now, you see how when I push it all the way down, as soon as I release it, it drops right down. It's not sticking anymore. Now I just got to finish cleaning this a little better. Well, looks like I'm not done after all. I just decided to open up this bowl drain screw, and I could see there's a spring in there. Look at all the rust on the end of this. All this stuff right here is what just fell out of that. Fell out of there when I was tapping it, trying to get the spring to come out, and then this little plunger followed it. So, interesting part of the design here, behind this screw that I had taken out and showed you, and the spring and the little red plunger, way inside there was a little tiny O-ring that little red plunger seats up against. The plunger is kept up against the O-ring by the pressure of the spring when the screw is in there. So it's kind of a weird design. I don't understand the point behind that. I don't know if that's just supposed to, by design, be able to keep fuel from being stagnant in this little area right here when this plug is in. I don't know. Well, I cleaned it all up and put it all back together. Okay, I reinstalled the carburetor, and before reattaching the fuel line, I put some gas through the tank, ran some gas through the tank and let it run through the line into a jar of waste gas, just to clean out any crud that might be in the bottom of that tank. Now I'm going to put some fresh gas in. Alright, it's been a few minutes since I put gas in the tank, so by now the bowl should have filled up, and I don't see any leaks. It's a good sign that the float mechanism's working correctly. So now, instead of putting it all the way back together, I'm just going to squirt a little gas into the throat to prime it. I've got the throttle setting here about midway. Oh, just realized I can't run it with this off because of the flywheel brake. Oh well. All right, let's see if I got this put back together quick enough so the gas didn't all evaporate off. Sounds pretty good. I wonder if the self-propelled works. Well, just had my son Aiden mow the grass with this thing, and I'll tell you, it's working great. You know, I've never been a fan of Craftsman power equipment, but I got to tell you, I like the design of the carburetor from what I saw. You know, most of these motors on these Craftsmans were Tecumsehs. Some of them were Briggs. I think most of them were Tecumsehs. Either Tecumsehs or Briggs. I'm not sure who makes this motor, but I like that carburetor, and it's a great running mower. After sitting all these years just cleaning the carburetor and going like that, I think it's great. One other note, just for the heck of it, I put that air filter in, and I should have known by the looks of it. It ran horrible. It can't even run with this filter. So I've got to get a new filter for it. Other than that, you know, maybe give the blades a sharpening at some point, but I think we're going to call this one a wrap. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit the like button. If you're not already a subscriber, please consider subscribing. Take care.